Been a while, mate. We've got a bit to talk about.
We do. There's been some interesting news on the...
Must be Tour de France season.
Yeah, must be.
So we're here to talk about the new Trek Madone Monde.
Yeah, Madone.
launch. I quite like it. It's like my initial thoughts were like, okay, yeah. And then we've had some opinions. We thought, hey, let's get in front of a camera, share our opinions to the world, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
It's why not? So my first opinion was, we did that podcast a little while ago about 40% less SKUs and trying to cut down the inventory. And we speculated whether it would be the Madone or the Monde that won out. And it was sort of both.
Yeah. Well, I think that was... I don't know if it counted as a win, but it's a change, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're definitely right on that. So apparently this new bike, it was originally conceptualized as a new Monde, and then they realized apparently that the aerodynamics were very, very close to a Madone, so they might as well just call it the Madone, essentially. Now, I do like the video that Trek made, actually. They gave some really good shots, actually, including the inside of the frame, which is quite progressive as well. But there was an awful lot of spin.
Yeah.
There was like, all this time they've been telling us that we've got to have a lightweight bike and an aero bike, and all these different sizes. And now they've come up with some amazing reasons.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Trek were one of the last people hanging on to the kind of dual bike system, weren't they? So like obviously Specialized kind of led the way, and everyone else has sort of followed with their kind of all-rounder one bike to rule them all. Yeah. And yeah, Trek were really hanging on. And I think the biggest obviously disappointment for Trek now is that the down tube's so much smaller, they can't fit the logo on anymore compared to last time.
Massive oversized logo.
That's obviously a big blow for Trek, but I think they've done well with this. And yeah, it's an interesting one because to me it still looks like an Monde. And as you were saying, they were, as it was originally conceptualized. I don't know what the right word is, but it was supposed to be the Monde.
Yeah.
And to me, the Monde is the stronger brand of Trek because
I think the sales are. I'd say
so. To get rid of the Monde name, it doesn't really matter what the bike is, does it? At the end of the day,
no,
it's just a name. To keep the Madone name and get rid of the Monde, I thought was interesting because I thought the Monde is the one that most people have been buying and most people ride because the Madone is obviously a very aggressive, very aero bike. So it's not for most people. So I thought that was the first thing that caught my attention was that ditching the Monde name I thought was an interesting choice. Yeah,
I have to admit, I thought the same. It's definitely, we see more Mondes in the shop than Madones. The Madones are seen as a special thing. I think it would have
I don't think I've seen a Gen 7 or a Gen 6 Madone in the shop.
I've only seen one, actually, It's not, I've only seen one. They're not very common compared to the sheer amount of Mondes.
Yeah, we see a lot of Mondes in the shop.
So that was interesting. So basically what we've got is an Monde front with the sphincter-esque rear end of a Madone.
Yeah.
And apparently it's 320 grams lighter than a Madone, but it's the same weight as the current Monde. You had to sort of catch that glimpse of information.
I think it's very difficult to compare between the two because it's obviously a very different bike to the previous Madone. So I think, again, I think it's... Maybe they've put it as the Madone for the better marketing spin, as this is 320 grams lighter than the previous model, but actually it's just a rehashed Monde, which is the same weight.
Yeah. It's a very interesting way how they spun that little nugget of information.
Whilst obviously they are going to have to spin their marketing because they want you to buy it. I thought it was a very good video they did though.
It was actually. I found the actual Trek video was probably more interesting than some of the actual David Arthur videos, etc. Which is I'm definitely more interested in the GCN video. What was interesting in the Trek one, you have to really listen hard to get the nuggets of information. Was they were saying that the challenge was that when they were asking their team riders which bike do you want to use, the Monde or the Madone, and they said the team riders didn't always know.
Well, it probably depends, doesn't it? Because if you're Jonathan Milan, you're always going to ride the Madone because he's 85 kilos probably. He's 2 meters tall, massive sprinter. He's always going to ride the Madone. But if you're Juanpe Lopez and he's 5'4" and weighs 40 kilos, he's always going to ride the Monde.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a really tricky one in that sense. But I think, they obviously had to do something because, they're struggling. They've got to knock down these SKUs, and as we've talked about before on the channel. So it's a very interesting problem they've got themselves.
Yeah, so they join the ranks of Specialized, etc., don't they? So before we get on to the other brands that are still holding out on the two-bike philosophy, there's a couple of things on here. The aero bottle thing, I think that's going to be a trend that we're going to see roll out across all brands now.
Obviously, Giant do it on the Propel with the aero bottle cages, not actual aero bottles.
And we've seen BMC do it with the team machine, etc. So I think this is the next area of development. Always does strike me as how aero. They make these bikes and just plonk on
Yeah.
additional bidon size. That's always good. It's nice to see in their video they actually look at the inside of the frame, and they've done some stuff with apparently some inflatable mandrels rather than just inflatable bags to try and improve that tenting situation and stuff. Looks like they're still running T47, which is all good. Catching up with tyre sizes up to 32mm sizes, so it's all big thumbs up. And I noticed they've got raised brake mounts as well, so that's quite good. So it means that mechanics like us can fix stuff. So little things like that, I think they've been listening to as well. So yeah, all in all, I'm quite looking forward to seeing one in real life. To be honest, it's like And
I think one last thing on the Emonda or Madone for me is that they've actually reduced the number of specs of the frame as well, haven't they? They've gone down from 3 to 2.
Yes.
Which I think is great.
2 spec sizes and less sizes.
Yes. Well, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a conversation for another day, isn't it?
I don't know.
Sizes, but
I think I quite like it. They've definitely paid more attention to the geometry of the smaller sizes. I think smaller riders especially. I don't know they've done much at the top end of the longer sizes, but I think smaller riders would definitely find that they can probably find an aero race bike that's going to suit them a bit better. Not quite Pinarello-esque in term for small riders, but getting there. Definitely strikes.
But yeah, I like that they've just got they've got the 2 specs of. I mean, to be honest, I'd kind of like if they just had 1, just to simplify it completely. But it's nice that they've got rid of that 3rd tier of frame, and it really is a race bike and really a top end product, rather than trying to pander to every audience and again messing up their kind of sales chart if you don't know what to buy, if you don't know what spec to get. I think that's much better.
Yeah, it does beg the question what they're going to do for their entry level carbon, I guess, a little bit, but I guess time will tell.
My money would be on a traditional Emonda without the seat post cut out.
Interesting. I like that idea. Okay, other bikes that have come out recently we haven't commented on yet is the new Pinarello Dogma F.
We say new.
It's the most boring product launch ever.
Yeah.
It's like, so as far as I can tell, it's the same as the old one with a 0.2%?
0.2% improved drag coefficient without a rider on the bike.
Cool. Brilliant.
So effectively, it's the same.
Yeah, and actually the little details that everyone pointed out was like, oh wow, look what they've done, is they've closed off the axle
like
threads,
you used to get on the BMC.
like you had from the BMC, and if anyone's ever worked on those, then you've got to be super, super careful, because if you bodge your wheel transition or something, normally when we try and fix that as mechanics, we just take a tap and run a tap through the whole thing, sort the threads out and everything else. You can't do that when they're closed off.
No.
It's you're back into carbon repair territory and everything else. So it's like, yeah, you might have saved 0.2%, but I God, if you bodge your wheel change in the back of your car or like just
Anything, yeah, it's a bad day.
Yeah, and I don't think they've improved the GPS mount either. So
the moist mount.
The moist bars. If any moisture gets on there, which it does because you sweat all over them, those tiny little aluminium riv nuts that hold your Garmin on just like end up flopping around.
And the number of those we have seen fail is pretty significant, isn't it?
The number of those that I've had,
it's probably 50%, isn't it?
Yeah, that I've had to drill out, and then like take the handlebar out and shake off all the random bits of aluminium that are left inside the bar, and then put new riv nuts in and stuff to them. It's like
it's a bad day
because the warranty process is like forget it. Like it's easier just for us to fix it and stuff. So, and I don't think they've improved the seat clamp design either.
The two little dots at the back,
which I think, if it's all set up perfectly to the instructions, it's fine. But people don't do that because people will adjust the seat posts when they're out on their ride or when you put my saddle up a little bit. And if you're not there with a torque wrench and then tightening each bolt perfectly, then we've just seen cracked seat posts and all sorts of mess. So there's stuff on there which I'm like, come on guys, why haven't you fixed these like really common problems yet? So,
but if you put a different seat post clamp on, that would probably put the drag back up by another 0.2%. So. Because it sits at the back, so it's there's no airflow there, is there? So they're going to struggle to change it with their minimal gains.
Oh yeah. Talking of which, minimal gains. Remember that specialised SL8 where you can't actually put a Di2 battery inside it? They've just made it 2mm too narrow for those aero gains, so you can't actually get a Di2 battery inside the seat post.
Yeah, it's be worth watching the long form video we've got coming out on that one.
So you actually, nearly every SL8 you build, you have to chop off the bottom of the seat post and drill a hole in it anyway to try and get the seat post right.
It's an interesting one.
How are we here? Anyway, next thing I want to talk about. We've had a couple actually of giant Propels in, and I wish we had the time to do a giant Propel inspection along the same way as we did, but we didn't. So you built both of them, I think, didn't you?
1.5.
Yeah, 1.5. What are your perceptions of the giant Propel?
Really easy to build.
Yeah.
I think quite nicely put together. it seems all good. Didn't see any problems with them. I quite like it.
Yeah, I'd have to say, they look pretty clean actually inside. We didn't really have to do any work to it. Bottom brackets are all okay, brake facings are all okay. They went together. Actually, really, really well. And I think the guys that they said they paid £1,800 for a Propel SL.
Yeah, so this is
bargain.
It's the mid-tier frame.
Yeah,
and both of these were done as custom builds.
Yeah,
so not an off-the-shelf Giant.
Yeah, so just to explain to you guys at home, quite often with our custom builds, we only supply look and time frame that we're dealers of, but loads of people bring us frames that they've brought us. We've got some things on the channel, but this is stuff that people have brought and said, hey guys, I brought all the components, please will you build it to the specification or the perfection that what we try and deliver. That's why we had them in the shop.
Yeah,
it's and we were like generally cool.
Yeah. And I think the weight's competitive as well, even for an aero bike.
Yeah.
I think both of them, first one was about 8.2, second one was 8.35, and that was both of 105 group sets.
Yeah, so this is just the frame on its own, isn't it? Weight?
No, this is full build. Full build,
okay.
8.2 kilos and 8.35 kilos on a 105. I didn't weigh the frame on its own, to be honest with you, but you can probably find that online somewhere.
We've been pretty busy for doing all that recently.
But it's even competitive weight-wise in that sort of category, and for what you're paying, I'm quite impressed.
Yeah. The other thing that's sprung to my mind as we were building them is that the people that brought them were probably traditional TCR riders, but they went for the Propel, which begs the question: when do you think Giant are going to? When are we going to have a Propel TCR? Is it going to happen?
Well, I think if I were Giant, first of all, I mean they sell a lot of bikes, don't they?
I think I've heard that.
Giant sell a lot of bikes, and if they're doing well with their dual lineup, which I probably because if I'm the normal person buys a TCR because it's the TCR.
It's a strong brand.
It's a strong brand.
It's
a really, really strong brand. I've had one. I think everyone's had one in their time of riding bikes, basically.
Yeah.
And it's still a great bike.
Yeah.
But for especially people who are racing, much, much more geared towards the Propel now because it's lighter, stiffer than it ever used to be, and it's now becoming a really compelling bike. So it's just whether Giant feel the need to, as Trek are doing, as Specialized have done, as Pinarello have always done, have that one bike to rule them all, as the Specialized marketing says.
I guess the sales figures will tell.
Yeah.
Let me know if you're in the market for either a Propel or a TCR. Which one did you go for?
Yeah, and if you were going to get rid of one, if you're Mr. Giant, what are you getting rid of?
Yeah, I mean the TCR is a strong brand name. The Propel is the better bike of the two. I mean, if you're behind a TCR like now, you'd be like, "What did you do that for?" When the Propel is literally staring you in the face, same geometry, everything.
Yeah.
And let's see what happens. Okay, one last thing before we sign off, and that is Tour de France season. Look, have announced the new colour of the 795 Blade RS, which looks amazing. Reminds me so much of the old Vive Leclerc days and the old Mondrian colour scheme. It's like platinum white and does look amazing. That's going to look great on the TV cameras.
It's very, very nice. Yeah, you'll see Cofidis riding it obviously at the Tour this year. Very nice.
We're not bringing any into the UK. That colour for the UK is too dangerous.
Unless someone really, really wants one, then we will. But I don't think you could ride one of those around here. As lovely as it is, it would be ruined in 30 seconds.
We wish all the Tour de France teams best of luck, and let's keep an eye on what's happening. It's quite interesting time, a big consolidation of ideas out there right now. So hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thanks very much, Jake. Get your ideas down there in the comments. We love to read the comments, and they always inspire further discussion. That's kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
Right. Cheers for watching.
See you later.